It's been a minute, I feel like. Hey everyone, Beauty Love here, and I'm back with another YouTube channel. So, YouTube channel or video, pick one. Welcome home. Today what we're going to talk about is how our emotions are journeys. Emotions are journeys that are meant to be explored. Now, I'm going to put out a disclaimer before I dive deeper into this topic that in no way, shape, or form am I ableist. In no shape or way or form am I trying to disregard that there are circumstances that we could be put in that may cause for a certain emotion to be erupted. If I'm not even mistaken, along with that, our circumstances, such as our environment, have such a huge impact on how we operate as individuals. I can never think of the scientific term, but if I'm not mistaken, we were technically in our own parents' womb, our mother's womb, when our mother was in her mother's womb, if that makes sense. I was already in my mother's womb when she was in my grandmother's womb. So anything that my grandmother was experiencing while my mother was in her womb has not only affected my mother, but has affected me in some shape or way, from my emotions, my behavior. There's a scientific term that defines that. It's not ringing a bell for me. So I just want to start it off with a disclaimer that I'm not in any way, shape, or form disregarding that circumstances don't play a part. I'm not in any shape or way ableist, because I have talked about this before on my Instagram, and some people were trying to be like, this is kind of, and this is kind of, and I'm like, that's not my intentions. That's not where I'm coming from. So therefore, what I'm saying isn't. Maybe someone else can use what I'm saying and turn it into that into that way. But that's not what I'm saying, so it is not. Point blank, period. And sometimes what I think is that a lot of what I say and bring to the conversation, to the table to talk about, is controversial. It is taboo. And it's in perspectives that no one's ever thinking of, because I think a lot of the times too is a lot of people want to be victims. And it's not to say that you are not a victim, but I think a lot of people get really comfortable in that state, in that energetic state of being a victim and being helpless, and not just, like, I could probably use better choice of word, but not just helpless, but being a victim and constantly being pitied after, or constantly seeking help and needing help and wanting things done for us, or just not having the courage or the strength at the time to walk through the journey. So it's better off being in the state of whatever happened years ago when you were a victim, whatever happened in that point in time when you were a victim. So essentially what I was saying was that our emotions are journeys. And specifically what I was talking about was depression and anxiety. But you can look at any emotions, whether it's depression, anxiety, being angry, being sad. Certain emotions are journeys. I think overall all emotions are journeys. But we see a lot about like depression and anxiety, and then how the pharmaceutical industry does nothing but constantly prescribing us medicines not to heal, not to completely clear out whatever the issue may be, but to keep us dependent on something that puts money into their pocket. So what I was saying in my story post, and I'm pretty sure I talked about this on TikTok, was that emotions are journeys, and we need to get out of identity-based language when it comes to expressing certain emotions. Instead of saying I'm depressed, we should say we're experiencing depression, or I'm just feeling down today. But those I ams attached with the exact emotion, I feel like can blur the lines between who you are and what you're going through. And sometimes, and not sometimes, but I think a lot of people have a hard time grasping that a lot of our emotions are journeys, if not all of them. So it's a journey that's meant to be explored, felt, and but also released. So the journey is the act of this it's like an alchemical type of process, if I'm using that word right. It's a transformative process. It's the act of transmutation, taking one thing and turning into another, whether it's putting that emotion, that feeling, into art, into whether that's poetry, simply what I'm doing right here, talking, painting, some sort of craft or creation. It can be as simple as journaling. It can be as simple as reflecting in your own space, in your own solitude. If you're not putting it into something, but to sit in it can sometimes blur and if not all the time, is blurring the lines between who we are in the moment and with what we're feeling. So now it becomes as if this space, for instance, let's say I'm using the example of being like, I am depressed. And also I'm not taking away that you're not experiencing depression and depression is not real. But let's say you're experiencing depression. It's like, I mean, you are constantly attaching, I'm depressed. Well, I'm doing this because I'm depressed. I'm doing this and I'm this way because I'm anxious. You have now blurred the line between who you are and what you're experiencing. It's like taking something and putting it in a higher power than you yourself and your ability to take certain actions that are above that emotion. And that if you did take those certain actions that were above and stronger than that emotion, that part of yourself that you have now identified with so deeply, depression or anxiety, doesn't have a space to exist in your life. And that'll be really uncomfortable. So not only just having the strength and courage to transmute it, emotions are a journey. The journey is the transmutation process. The emotion is the road. The transmutation process is you going through it and you feeling it. You moving through it, you flowing through it. So not only just having the courage to approach it, because some people, when I said this, I think a lot of people were just triggered, and not even a lot of people understood what I was coming from, but some people were triggered, and I think that has to do with just, I think a lot of it has to do with, some people don't have the courage, and not in a bad way, but like haven't gotten to that space in their journey of facing that emotion head on. Because what may come up may be scary. What may come up is a lot of things that you have put off to the side and you have not looked at face to face. And that's the whole part and significance of our shadow self. It's coming into union with different aspects of ourselves and looking them into the mirror, even the aspects of ourselves that isn't good. And not that it's not like good, that it has no space, because there's a way of transmuting it where that shadow aspect knows when to come out and when to go back into the shadows. But outside of just having the courage to face it head on, I think some people have gotten that just also comfortability with that part of themselves, that it doesn't even matter whether they have the courage or not, or whether they want to transmute it or not, or that they're not even aware of how it's really holding them back instead of pushing them forward, because they have made their bed for it. They have made their bed for depression. They have made their bed for anxiety. They have made their bed for anger. They have made their bed for sadness and the role it plays in their lives. So instead of transmuting it, where you wouldn't be fluffing up the pillow and putting the blanket over sadness, anger, depression, anxiety, you would be in your bed alone, just you, yourself. And that might be scary for some people as well too. And not even just scary, but I think, once again, it's that comfortability is there. When you've gotten used to doing something for so long, you got used to being a specific and certain way for so long, and even you've gotten so used to identifying with such emotion and the role that it played into your life that you mistaking it for being a part of who you are. It blurs the line from actually being able to release it, because I think that's a key factor in feeling our emotions, is that yes, it comes and you want to feel it, but then you also want to release it. So if it comes and you just sit with it and you're not feeling it, and some people get into the space of feeling it, and then in that constant cycle of feeling it. So it can come, you sit with it, you're like ignoring it, whatever. No, I'm not that. No, there's not certain things, or it's just there. This is who I am. Like a monotone, just like don't give a fuck type of person. I feel like it's very much so. It's just like that emotion comes and it just sits there. You know what? You again. And then they got the people who feel it, and I think the people who feel it tend to be more reactive, in a sense. That you can take the person who just allows it to sit there isn't very much reactive. It's non-reactive. They're non-reactive to the emotion. It's almost like they're trying to act as if it's not there. And then you have the people who feel it and they're very reactive, and a lot of things trigger them. A lot of things can set off that emotion, and you can see the type of cycle and what emotion they're feeling and how it has not been transmuted yet. And then you have the one who, okay, let me sit with it for some time. Let me understand. Let me make space to understand where you're coming from and why you're here and what you're teaching me. Okay, and within me being open to just, sometimes I may not have the answers, but I'm willing to sit with it. I'm going to feel it now. And feeling is that process of just allowing those emotions to erupt. It's when you fully understand where that anger is coming from, where depression started, where your anxiety started. And now you're just feeling it. You're understanding the root, and you're able to start the process of digging, and that's taking actionable steps and combating it, doing the opposite of whatever may be the root of being depressed or being angry or being sad or being anxious. And it doesn't mean that path, that journey is going to be a straight, smooth, seamless journey to, the complete process of transmuting it. You're gonna have bumps in the road. You're gonna have moments where you're walking and then you start doing U-turns. You walk and you do another U-turn. And you walk and you may just sit there for a minute. And that's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. There's literally no wrong or right way of transmuting and feeling and taking the actionable steps. Everyone's journey is going to look different. Everyone's ways of processing is going to look different, and ways of expressing as well. And then you find, once you get to that end of that journey, you'll find yourself onto the next, because something always is coming up. And I feel like we're on a constant continuance of just healing. But you'll get to the end of that journey, and now you have a bunch of insight and wisdom. Because sometimes you're not even putting it to an artistic route or pursuit, but sometimes it's like, now I have this insight. Now I have this wisdom. Now I have gotten closer to who I am and understanding who I am, and also being able to realize what I am not and what I never was, to be able to release it. And like I said, for some, they paint. They may write poetry. They might put it into the music. It might start a business. It might, you end up doing something with your hands. You end up doing something with your, whatever the case may be. Dealing with the body. You might end up doing something with your emotions, or something that is able to assist other people with their emotions or mentalities and mindsets. So it can be that, or it can be just this beauty, which is simply being gifted the insight and wisdom that journey allows for us to obtain. And like I said again, I just like emphasizing this, that it's not an easy journey, and some people don't have the courage to face it, but some people also don't have the ability of, and not the ability, but I think I'm trying to find another word, but really it just comes down to the courage and building up that courage and that strength to face it, because essentially you have to put down a life that you got so used to living, just to get to the point of realizing it was never yours. It was never yours. It was never who you were. And that wasn't a part, and essentially it's not a part of your path, but it is. Because you came to this realization. And now you came to this insight now in this moment that you're grasping, even from me communicating with you. Because I'm assuming that if this is coming across your YouTube, you are a specific certain type of individual, and you're on a specific and unique type of path. I don't think my videos are for everyone, especially if you stay within this long. But yeah, you've gotten comfortable with this way of living just to realize what's it meant for you. It's not who you are, and it essentially never was. And it leaves you now embarking onto the next journey with also figuring out those questions. Because you get in the journey, question mark, question mark, question mark. I now have this wisdom and insight from, this journey of sadness, a journey of anger, a journey of, depression or anxiety. And for instance, let's say anxiety, and now I'm able to speak more clear, and certain things don't get me easily anxious and riled up. I might have regulated my nervous system. I'm speaking more clearly. I'm effectively communicating. I'm effectively in placing and implementing boundaries with people. I'm able to keep eye contact, whatever it may be in regards to, everyone's anxiety is going to look different. But you'll be left with question marks because now you're reflecting on how you've acted before, and you're like, who am I meeting now? Who is this person standing right? And what does that look like? Okay, let me now implement and take the actionable steps into who it is that I am, knowing that that is here right now, even though in some aspects in certain things, there are other parts that may be a bit further that I haven't obtained yet in this moment now. But I can still recognize that it is here. Nothing is at a distance. It's all within my energetic state. Just waiting for me to, elevate and level up my vibration to meet it and to come into union with it. But it is all here, everything that, and whoever it is that I'm designed to be. So overall, emotions are not like fixed states of our existence, of our beings. I feel like it is a journey that flows through us for the main purpose of growth, and it's something that can be felt, understood, and transmuted for growth or insight. And essentially, when we start using identity-based language to affirm how we feel, it starts to blur the line, like I said earlier, with who we are and what we're feeling. And once that line is blurred, it creates a subconscious attachment to that negative state of being, that negative state of being or existing that we're feeling. And it creates like this, it's creating but also reinforcing this habitual emotional pattern. And this is why I think as well, and this is also not even why I think, but why I kept saying too in the video, so people don't have the courage to face it, to come one-to-one with themselves. And it's not even just having the courage to face it, it's because reinforcing that habitual emotional pattern, you don't even know what you're facing. You start to blur that line so deeply that you're not even able to recognize what it is that you're actually supposed to be feeling and understanding and how to get through it. Because you don't blur the line with reinforcing it through allowing an emotion to define you, and which it doesn't do. Emotions, you have to be aware that one, it's not even just like I am this thing and it's defining me. It's I am feeling something within, most likely caused by internal or external stimuli, and I'm attempting to get to the root of it. I want to get to the root of it. But right now, I'm aware that this thing is here. Whether you want to say it's visiting you or overall you're just feeling it. Not that you are it, but you're feeling it. This allows for you to understand that there's an energy flowing through you and you can transmute it. And from awareness, you go to observing, how this energy does flow through you and how it has shown up, and maybe where it has came from. This goes through that process of understanding the emotion. The observation is almost like the process of feeling it, and then from observing it, you start processing it. So that kind of, in a sense, leads to the feeling it part. Now you're processing it. Now you're feeling it, and you're really getting deep into the nitty-gritty of understanding where it is rooted from. And sometimes a lot of our emotions, once again, it can be the circumstances that we are faced with, whether it's environmental, whether it's familial trauma, things of that such. But I think some of the emotions that we can feel aren't even our baggage, our emotions to pick up and carry as our own in the first place. So once you get to that process, then you lead to the transformation state, which is the transmutation state. And that essentially leads to you either gathering a bunch of insight and wisdom to use along your journey and to share with other people who may be experiencing the same thing, or it can lead to a creative outlet that ends up communicating the insight and wisdom that you have experienced through whatever emotion that it is. And that is just me yapping about how our emotions are journeys. So there's no need to allow it to define you, because you're so much more than these harsh, hard, heavy, negative states of being. There's so much more to you. And I promise it feels a lot lighter than the comfortability of a lot of the emotions, that it can be very easy within the state of the world that we're in through our circumstances and our experiences, to get comfortable with, to where you want to lay beside it. So, uni love out.